So Wu-Tang and American Saga is back on Hulu for season 3. And I'm just going to kind of give my overall review of the episode because I can't guarantee that I'm going to be here recapping this. Not that, are there a lot of people watching it? Who's watching Wu-Tang and American Saga? Drop into the comments and let me know if you're watching the show. If you even think there's a need to discuss the show. Because to be perfectly honest, if this wasn't a Wu-Tang product, I probably wouldn't be interested. But since I know these are Wu-Tang member stories or likenesses, because it's not really an accurate account of events, however, it gives you some context of how things kind of happen. And if you actually saw their documentary of Mice and Men, I think it helps kind of like bring it all together. And I mentioned that in I think a season 2 or season 1 review of the show. But the show, episode 1, kind of opens up at a place where I'm thinking, how did they get here? They're in a house, this brand new red house somewhere. I'm assuming it's in somewhere out in Staten Island. I'm assuming, or maybe it's somewhere, I don't know. Somewhere it's not in Manhattan. It's somewhere more suburban. It's definitely not city. So maybe it's further out in Staten Island. I don't know. Somebody correct me. Tell me where the house was. It's not really important. But the important thing is we're establishing who these people truly are and how their personas kind of came to be. Like we see Raekwon got a new Foreman grill, and we're establishing Raekwon is the chef. And the funny thing is, me being a real hip hop historian, if you will, I actually just thought Raekwon the chef was just a name he gave himself. I didn't really know that he was out there cooking in those streets like that, preparing meals for the people as they were supposed to be producing music in the house. But it seems like it was just a bunch of debauchery going on where, it's like a 90s music video in the house every day with a bunch of like scrub women walking around in swimsuits. And, we also established that that's where Ghostface establishes fashion style with wearing a robe. He had on a Versace robe. And the funny thing is, in my mind, I always thought of that as like a boxing robe, but I guess it was a Versace robe. He was like, this is my new look. The funny scene that happened that I thought was Ghostface Dennis was in a hot tub upstairs and he called on the intercom like, yeah, send me up some, I guess chicken or something, some food. And Raekwon's like, I don't even know where you are. Let me just say, since we don't really get a lot of the people aside from Method Man and RZA in public, and then Ghostface was on a season of Couples Therapy. That's when I first got a sense of who his true personality was, or who he was, his persona on Couples Therapy, which actually disappointed me. Like, dang, you some trash. But at the same time, did I really expect him to be a stand-up type of guy with women on Couples Therapy? So the funny thing is, oh boy, and I can't think of his name. Is it Shaquem or he played in Fresh, right? No, it wasn't Fresh. The dude who plays Raekwon, and I know his name, it's just escaping me. He embodies the Raekwon that came across in Only Built for Cuban Links, Purple Tech. So it's like he embodies the Raekwon that I would expect, because we don't really, I've never seen, there's not a whole lot of footage on Raekwon moving around acting to get a true sense of his personality. So, but I feel like I know immediately, who he is. You don't even have to, he didn't even have to say, they don't even say, hey Ray, they don't even have to say his name. That's Raekwon. And the guy playing ODB embodies ODB. And the guy playing, and Dave East playing Method Man embodies Method Man. And I guess the guy playing Jizza kind of embodies him as well, from what we know of Jizza. But RZA, I guess because this Ashton, whatever his name is, last name from, he was originally in Moonlight and in other movies. He doesn't embody RZA to me, but I think it's funny the way he's playing RZA. And this season, RZA has a new look. He has an afro and those sideburns, those Isley Brothers sideburns that RZA used to rock. And I think it's funny. And he's playing RZA very robotic. And RZA is, from seeing in interviews, he is kind of robotic. But I keep saying from season to season, what made him choose him to play him? Because RZA's the creator of the show, so I'm sure he had everything to do with casting the show. Like, I don't think the guy playing Ghostface embodies him, but I'm just rolling with him. He doesn't embody the person who I saw on couples therapy or the person who I've seen in passing. But I mean, I can roll with it. But like, this episode is basically establishing these personalities and how they came to be. And another personality that's, we're establishing more this season, which they did a little bit last season, is Divine's role in business. Like, Divine is trying to, make these real big business moves, trying to get in these spaces with business people. He's steadily going to the record label, to Steve, to Loud, trying to get, more money. And meanwhile, back in the lab, that's what we're calling the house. I'm going to call it house. The lab is where RZA is like struggling because, he lost all this music, and he tried to recover the zip drive, the zip disc, which is so funny because I remember using the zip disc back in the day. It was like a real hot commodity. Like, you have a zip disc? Oh my god, my zip disc is full. I gotta delete it. And now it's like, we don't even use disc anymore. But RZA, is stressed out because of the music. And then, he's staying in the lab, and his, Janet Jackson knockoff, who's now a knockoff of Regine from Living Single. It's like, you're not coming to bed, you're not sleeping in bed, you staying in the lab. So we're establishing that RZA is serious about this music, and he's going to get it produced, and everybody has a sound, because as we know from season 2, RZA had everybody's album finished but lost it all in the flood. And then, like, at one point, I'm jumping ahead, so let me start. And so then, like, say, we also established that Ghostface is getting caught up with women, whereas he promised Shuri, or whatever her name is, RZA's sister, that, he would come home every night. But Ghostface and, Raekwon are out in the streets, they've discovered Cristal, which is, was so famous in every hip-hop song in the 90s. They're now, like, seeing the, getting bottle service and starting to see the finer side of life, the finer things in life. They're starting to, observe it. So we see that, and they're living it up out, in the clubs, and where they're playing, they're playing Wu-Tang in the club. So, but I feel like the show just kind of jumped ahead to where it was like, how did we get here? And my question is, where was Method Man? The entire episode. They alluded to him, he, Bring the Pain's doing well, blah, blah, blah. But why wasn't he in the episode? Because I was watching with my sister, and we kept saying, where is Method Man? Like, where is he? And I think that's part of the storytelling that's lacking for me, or more so the direction. Because I think a lot of times people blame bad film or TV on the writing, but a lot of times this is the director, and just in the editing. And the direction and the editing kind of go hand in hand, because the director gives the editor notes. And the way they were telling this story, I just thought it was weird, because it's like, now all of a sudden, one, I guess Wu-Tang is huge. Everybody's talking about Wu-Tang. And we see, like, cuts of them, radio stations. Sway is talking about Wu-Tang. We learned about you on, Bobino and Stretch's show. And then, like, Bootleggers are bootlegging Wu-Tang. We see ODB, who's now a full-on drug addict. It's like he went from weed and alcohol to, like, in the strip club, sniffing coke off a girl's booty. So he's now a full-on drug addict, and he's MIA from the lab. He's not out there in the house with them. So, but they never say, like, he's mad at me. Like, RZA never says it. So, stay tuned, I guess. Stay tuned. But, like, he just all of a sudden is a full-on drug addict, going into bars, like, beating up the bartender, jumping behind the bar like Rick James on Dave Chappelle, like, pow! Like, okay, ODB is out there in these streets. And, we got Raekwon the Chef, and we have Inspector Deck, who's like really hounding RZA about this music. And if I have to, like, I wish I could be like a little angel or, excuse me, a little wizard or somebody like Kazoo to come to the back to the past and say, Inspector Deck, don't hold your breath. Your album not coming. It's not coming out for a while. Get in line. Get in line, punk. Like, you know, you know. But Inspector Deck went to this NASA guy to see if they could recover the music, and they were like, "Oh no, we can't recover this music. You know, it's feces and stuff, fecal matter on this disc." And so then some guy runs into him, and I don't know where that relationship is gonna land. And speaking of relationships, Raekwon, when they get into this Benz that they have delivered, it's like they're living high. They're in this Benz station wagon. Ooh, that's a fly car. Because back in the day, it was Land Cruisers, and Range Rovers people were driving, but they were in this like Benz Mercedes station wagon. So they went to the city, and Raekwon started yelling out the car at these white girls, and come to find out later on, the white girls come back to the house and start telling them, y'all need to be listening to other music. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Only Wu-Tang is played in this house. Only Wu-Tang. And the Swedish girls were like, you need to play other stuff. Meanwhile, the whole episode, they're just caught up in the house. While RZA is, is worried about the music and the dates. Because they said, wait, we can't get out Raekwon. That won't be until like 95. And RZA's like, no, you needed that not RZA. Divine was like, no, you wanted that extra 400,000. We gotta get it. He's like, we gotta get it out, RZA. Like, his voice is so like weak, whatever. But the Divine actually does sound like that. And then also we have Power, who is thinking beyond the music. He's thinking like back in the day there was Sean John and Fat Farm were already kind of established. So he's thinking there was Fubu and Carl Kanai. So he's thinking beyond that. He says we need a clothing brand with that with our logo. We need a clothing line. So when he went back to his father's shop, because if you remember, Power's father owned some sort of tailor shop or pants shop or something. He was a tailor. And he really wanted Power to be part of the business, but Power was like, I don't want to do that. I'm a stick-up kid, basically. But his father was the one who came up with, you should call it Woo Wear. Who knew his father came up with that? I wonder if his father gets any, residuals from coming up with Woo Wear. Doubtful, because the person who designed the Wu-Tang logo, poor thing, only got like $400. And that was like the best money spent. Because that's why I'm a designer, and if I do logos for people, I'm always like, is this gonna be big? Am I charging too little for this logo? But at the same time, most of the people who come to me, I can always tell, unfortunately, this business isn't going anywhere, but I'm gonna do your logo for you. So I'm not worried, and I'll charge you something small. It just depends on the size of your business, how much you're gonna charge. But not enough about me. But so the Wu-Tang apparel line was about to happen, but the episode kind of wraps up where ODB gets basically knocked out of the building that he was running from the cops in. There's a whole chase scene for him after he beats up the bartender, and he ends up in a building. Next thing we know, he's flying out of a 2-story window, and he's on the floor, and then Shuri calls the house. It's ODB. What's his real name? Asan. Whatever his real name is. He's in the hospital. And the episode just kind of ends. So if you're watching Wu-Tang and American Saga on Hulu Season 3, drop into the comments and tell me what your thoughts are so far on this season. It's debatable if I'm going to come back and talk about it. I just want to talk about it today because guess what? I had time and I'm a Wu-Tang fan. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a friend.